Alrighty, hello and welcome into this Go Throw coverage of the third event here on the Tour Down Under in New Zealand, and a beautiful one we have at that. We're here at the New Zealand Disc Golf Open in West Auckland, New Zealand's largest city. I'm Henry Pearson, Tour Director of the Tour Down Under, and I'm joined by five-time world champion in Juliana Korver. Juliana, what a fantastic round we have ahead of us.
I'm really looking forward to this footage. I wasn't on this card, so this will be the first time that I'm seeing them play.
Well, like us both, we'll be seeing these players for the first time. A great card we have. We start off with Emily Weatherman, the 2024 Disc Golf Pro Tour Rookie of the Year. She's had a stellar Tour Down Under season so far, collecting a win at Spa Park last week.
Exactly.
Next on the tee, we see Handley join us in New Zealand for the very first time. She is the world number 4, and she's playing her first event outside of the US ever, and looking to capture, indeed, her first international win. Third on the card, a familiar face to our Go Throw viewers over the Tour Down Under season. This is Sophia Donnecke from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. She had a great win at Egmonster amidst the wind under the foothills of the Donnecke mountain there in week 1, and rounding us out, a rising star in Taylor Choceck, a fantastic athlete across a few different disciplines, and disc golf being one of them. She throws the disc further than most. Juliana, we're looking at hole number 1.
Hole number 1, it's a par 4, 720 feet. The play is safely along this left-hand side, and then you turn and you throw out of bounds onto a basket that is on a ridge. It is a downhill shot for your second shot, and you can see that the land continues to slope away drastically behind the basket.
This is your 10 a.m. tee time FPO feature card. First on the tee, representing Innova Champion Discs and winner of the 2025 Tokor Classic, is Emily Weatherman.
I had the chance of catching up with Emily in a pre-tournament press conference earlier in the week, and she was maybe a little concerned that this course was requiring distance that maybe she couldn't quite sort of manage, but we'll see. I know that she's got such a well-rounded game that
she's so accurate, but kind of like me, she likes to throw really low and straight shots, and this course often asks you to throw up over trees.
Holland had a fantastic year on the Disc Golf Pro Tour in the US, a couple of fantastic wins throughout the season. I particularly remember the exciting finish at the Beaver State Fling in Portland, which I had the pleasure of watching in person. Electric player. She's only really come up in the ranks in the last couple of years, so one to watch.
This is only her 4th year on tour, and she said, I guess I feel like a veteran now.
Unfortunately, finding the OB there off the tee, so she'll head to the drop zone.
Also representing Innova Champion Discs and champion of the 2025 Egmonster Classic, it's Sophia Donnecke.
Sophia is the reigning Canadian national champion, and recently represented Canada at the World Team Championships over with our cousins in Australia. And she fires off a pretty nice looking drive there on hole number 1. There is OB on that left hand side, but Sophia's pulled up.
Rounding out
It's
your
short.
FPO feature card, representing Discraft, Taylor Choceck.
And we've seen all throughout the Tour Down Under season what talents Taylor has. She can throw the disc an absolute country mile. And as she starts to continue to develop her game, it's only going to be more exciting, I think, to watch her in the next couple of years.
Oh, great.
And that'll be safe, and our FPO Round 1 feature card is underway.
Holland goes to the drop zone. Any shots off the tee, they're out of bounds. Throw from this drop zone.
Approximately 430, 440 feet downhill here. Significant elevation change, as you can see from this catch cam angle.
It's a very good shot. It's not hard to throw far enough to get to the basket, but it's hard to get the disc to stop near the basket because of the mound that it sits on.
Sophia unfortunately tugging that one too far right, but proceed a little bit further forward to the initial OB line and have about the same angle and the same shot, but just slightly shorter. Yeah, you put it well earlier, Juliana. That peninsula that the basket sits atop is a little bit tricky. It drops off quite quickly behind, and the viewers might not be able to see, but there is OB behind the green. In addition to that line we can see there at the front. Beautiful shot there from Emily. She, I think, has recently switched to Innova as a new sponsor.
Yes, that is correct. This is her first year. Last year she was an open bag. I think she did throw quite a few Innova discs, so it's not a complete changeover.
Sophia nicely tidies up there after the little OB blunder off her second shot, so she'll have that one to save the bogey.
Very smart play. The ground falls away behind the basket, so it's a very dangerous green to go for.
Holland now to save her par. Just a little touch short. Not a whole lot of breeze at this time of the day to be working with, but we did see throughout the weekend that the wind was a significant factor. So we'll see how that progresses throughout the day.
A lot of elevation on this course. Just magnifies the wind that we end up getting later.
Unfortunate double bogey to start the day for Sophia, but she's always chipper out there on the course, so I'm sure that even at this early stage, that won't get her down. And as our remaining players tap out here on the first hole, we look back at another par 4 heading the other way up the hill for our second hole.
Here we are at hole 2. This is another par 4, as you said, 471 feet. This is mostly uphill, making it play quite a bit longer. The first play is to stay outside of this tree line up on the right-hand side and then throw something spiking over the top of these trees and hopefully landing close to the basket. The basket elevated on this tree stump. The land here slopes drastically from right down to the left.
OB framing each side of this fairway as well as behind the basket, so it sort of narrows, I think, as you get towards the green. Nice drive there from Emily in the smack bang middle of the fairway. Juliana mentioned earlier that undulation is a very notable factor this weekend here at the Oratia Orchard, and for those who might not be so familiar with Auckland's geography, we're currently playing in West Auckland in what's called the heart of the Waitakere Ranges. Beautiful rolling hills, native bush surrounds, and the Oratia Orchard course really does exemplify those characteristics quite well. So we'll see that throughout the day here with our round 1 coverage. Fantastic drives from all our competitors in the middle of the fairway. I think Sophia might be the furthest of the lot.
The higher up you are on the hill, the easier it is to be able to control the shot.
It's a magnificent effort there from Emily. She might not have been quite far enough up the hill to see the basket, so done extremely well there. I personally like this play from left to right, playing into the bank.
You don't get the skip down the hill as often this way, though it is just hard to come in cleanly with all of the trees near the basket.
She's found herself OB, so got a little kick and a roll down the hill. Hard to see between all of those beautiful orchard trees.
Taylor letting go too low on that shot, catching the trees.
And Sophia pretty much staring down the basket from here. in a beautiful position to capitalise off a great drive. And that's in the circle with an uphill putt for birdie. It's been fun to see the variety of courses we've had the opportunity to play here on the Tour Down Under season in New Zealand, with a sort of more of a traditional golf course layout in week 1 and at the Egmonster Classic. Then we moved to a park course at Spa Park last week, which is the #1 rated course in the Southern Hemisphere. And then now we're at what is a fantastic orchard grove. And really the big difference here between weeks 1, 2 and 3 is that elevation change we've spoken of a few times so far.
Nearly on line there. Spits out a little bit left.
And then to round out the season in a couple of weeks' time, we're heading down to Christchurch for the penultimate event of the Tour Down Under. And we'll see 2 courses feature that week at the National Championships. Bottle Lake, which was a fantastic venue we had last year, where Juliana, you captured a great win, and Rookerea, a new course for our viewers. Both of those quite flat, one technical and one requiring a bit more distance. So Holland surprisingly off to a slightly slow start, 2 bogeys to begin her Tour Down Under campaign and pars for each of our other competitors. Our first par 3 meets us on hole number 3.
Hole 3, 325 feet, throwing over this valley. Basket is maybe a little bit above the tee in height, but plays virtually straight. There is an out of bounds line on both the right and the left. Should be a right to left wind here, though it is hard to tell because the tee is pretty protected.
That one's gotten away on Emily a little bit there on the right, but she might have been lucky to capture that last row of orchard trees before finding the OB, so she does inbounds and be able to pitch up there for birdie, not par. That looks like a fantastic line from Taylor if it comes back a little at the end.
That definitely fell in the inbounds area.
Some wonderful sponsors contributing to this event over the weekend. RPM Discs, our title sponsor here at the New Zealand Disc Golf Open, and Garmin, who have come aboard with an amazing contribution to the prize pool. Some wonderful Venu S3 watches were awarded to players throughout the weekend, so just a fantastic shout out to all of our sponsors. Holland finds the inbounds, and we've got 4 players pitching up for birdie.
We don't see Emily throwing sidearm very often, but boy, when she does, it's usually pretty darn accurate, just like that one.
That was magical. Looked like a bit of a bullet there, almost heat-seeking the basket, and she was only just a couple of inches low before clambering into the chains.
Good try.
Another little pitch out forehand there from Sophia. I think we'll see that a few times throughout the day, where these low-hanging orchard groves force players to a knee to scramble. And
That is kind of the flavor of the course, where you have to figure something out so often because you're taken away from your normal stance.
So no birdies here on the 3rd hole. However, it's going to be a pretty easy party for our FPO feature card. Clean card so far for both Emily and Taylor, while Holland and Sophia are just a couple back. It's still early days.
Now, Dan, let's meet our women's finalists.
Boom!
How hard did she throw that?
I mean, the women's division is getting a lot tougher.
Another line.
World champion.
She's not holding back. Nope.
Good round, ladies.
OTB is very specific on how they list the disc because they want you to like the disc.
Virtually in your hand tells you what the disc is going to feel like, how heavy it's going to be. It's everything you want to know before it shows up to your house.
Not just marketing.
It's only the best.
Brought back by popular demand. Z-Lite plastic from Discraft. Disc that you already know and love, now available in lighter weights. This plastic is perfect for players with lower arm speeds as well as beginners. They can also be a great complement to the regular weight version of a disc that's already in your bag. Z-Lite. More distance with less effort.
Hole 4. This hole's a little bit different. Par 3, 234 feet downhill with a triple bando. You can see the wooden structure. Players need to throw through that wooden structure. The basket is 20 meters behind the mando in this little grove of trees.
Short, technical, fun, and eerily reminiscent of a hole from Winthrop at the USDGC. Might be slightly shorter, I think, at that hole I have in mind. I think it's hole 7 or 8.
Bamboo.
That one sounded like it might have clipped a wee sign on the way through, so Taylor just snuck that one under the top bar, the crossbar of the Mando. This one unfortunately looks too high and too wide.
Far enough to get past must have been.
It was quite fun catching up with Holland earlier in the week, and she showed me through some of the new toys she's got in her bag, and I think she might be a candidate for the most dyed discs in one's bag on tour. Every disc is some sort of pretty dye, which is very cool. And that disc she threw off the tee was no exception. Little lean out forehand here for Holland. That'll be close enough where she doesn't have to worry too much about putting that one in. Now this might be the safe par, if not a bogey for Sophia. That's going to be a big number, I think. So already 2 over par on the day, and with another 1 or 2 drop shots here on the 4th, slightly slower start, Sophia. However, we have seen her charge home at each of the events here.
Yeah, the first 2 events she's had rock solid final rounds.
I think somebody earlier in the week suggested that her new nickname has to be the closer.
That seems appropriate.
Yeah, the hot round last week to close things out in Topor, and she did get within a couple of shots of Emily in that final round, despite starting the day maybe 8 or 9 shots back. And then the week prior, she was 3 shots back of the lead going into the final round, and ended up taking it out by 1 or 2. We moved to hole number 5.
Another par 3, another little hole. This is the smallest hole on the course, 182 feet. Tunnel shot, slightly uphill, so you need to throw something slow that stays straight, that doesn't clip the branches on any of the sides.
Yeah, it's a tricky little number, this hole. That canopy there of the orchard trees is pretty low, but you've only got to give it some elevation to get up this hillside.
Well, they got a very nice skip. She should be able to reach out and have a shot around those branches.
Yeah, pretty rare to get such a good little skip there off this hole. That grass is usually quite grabby. Fantastic shot there from Holland. She just sort of grazed her way through that right-hand side of the orchard and is now tapping in for a 2. Starting to get her round back on track. And Sophia, likewise, a fantastic shot. So 3 players sort of tucked neatly into the circle, and oh, that was a pretty good run. I think,
Catching the pole.
yeah. This course here, the Oratia Orchard, has only really come up in the last year or so. It was developed to be a venue for intermediate and novice players at the 2024 New Zealand National Championships, which was held between 3 venues. The Orchard, Ballaraka, which is just down the road, and the Redwood Park Golf Course, which we saw on Go Through coverage last season. But this course has really taken shape over the last 12 months or so, particularly in the last 3, where there's been 32 new tee pads installed in 3 months.
Remarkable and appreciated. Here we are at hole 6. This is par 3, 330 feet. This is very similar to to hole 3, where you're throwing over the valley and you basically have the basket the same height as the tee. There is out of bounds on right and left as well as far.
A couple of different sort of lanes there to pick from. Emily's chosen the right lane, but unfortunately turned the wrong way. So a straight with a late finish shot would be ideal for that right-hand lane, and in the left-hand lane you can throw a slightly more S-shaping shot. But obviously the wind, I think, started to pick up now by hole number 6, and it's playing a factor for our FPO feature card.
It was really hard to tell what direction the wind was blowing.
Well, that's 3 very similar looking shots. All of them started right and turned right. And yeah, you're right, Juliana. The combination of the wind as well as the undulation here at the Orchard made for some quite trying wind conditions. At times it looked like the wind was going to the left, and then all of a sudden it was going to the right. 20 metres in front of you it was a different wind, and so we'll see that play a factor throughout the weekend. Sophia's done very well there to find a gap and get that up into a position to save her par. Like she was greeted with a wall of orchard trees.
Holland's shot very similar, finding a nice path up to the basket.
Oh, well, that's 2 holes in a row where Taylor's upshot from at least 20 metres or at least 60 feet out has given the basket a little bit of a scare. Just trying to let those RPM helices know who's boss. A great cut from Sophia. You can really see the wind starting to whip as that Tour Down Under flag atop the basket shows us. But at this distance, Holland and Taylor will have no problem tapping in. So 1/3 of the way through our round 1 here, and things are still pretty even, Stevens. We move forward to hole number 7.
Another par 3, 410 feet, all of it downhill. Basket plays as if it's on an island here. The creek line on the left is OB. There's a front line that's out of bounds. And actually, if you have decent pace on the disc, it is possible to go too long as well. You can throw safe left to the left of the creek. You don't want to go straight at the basket.
This might just be my favourite hole on the course, and I should confess though it is for slightly selfish reasons. I did card my very first ace here a couple of months ago.
It's a nice hole to ace because you can see it the entire way.
There's another forehand out to the left, similar to Holland's, and it just ties it in late. Right in the heart of the chains, made a god-awful noise, and then I made a god-awful noise celebrating us with Sophia falling short there, which is quite an unusual spot to end up in. I really like this forehand play that Taylor and Holland have taken. You can see the hillside there is indicative of probably about an 80-foot, maybe 70-foot elevation decline. And that one's unfortunately OB2. So 2 forehands, 2 backhands for our players, but we'll be carding a couple of bogeys here on the card, but a couple of putts for birdie as well. Taylor has had a fantastic tour down under season so far, and this is really just the prelude into what's going to be a big year for her. She's committed to competing on the Disc Golf Pro Tour full-time for her first full season in 2025. And we've seen her card a number of great rounds in rounds 1 and 2 and putting herself in a position to be in contention on the final day, but just hasn't quite got it over the line in those first 2 tournaments.
A lot of excitement on the tour for her first season, to see how she handles a full season of play.
So with that birdie, our highest rated player in the field in Holland has brought her around back to even par. Is now top the leaderboard there with Taylor. Look at that, clean round, 7 pars on the trot, which is pretty good in this wind.
Hole 8, par 3, 257 feet. There's an OB line along the entire right-hand side before you dip down into a gully with the foliage. You can play safe and fall left, but then you most likely have trees in your way as you try to putt towards the basket.
This hole is one of the lower points on the course in terms of its elevation relative to sea level, and it is a bit of a gully, so a collection of almost acts like a wind tunnel down here, so it can be quite strong.
Both Holland and Taylor with very safe shots, staying away from the out of bounds on the right-hand side.
Emily with a great disc selection there, something stable enough to combat that wind. And she finds herself 5 or 6 metres away from a birdie too. And Sophia likewise, it was almost mirroring Emily's shot, but just a little low out of the hand. So this one from 40 feet. Juliana, you've shared the card with each of these 4 competitors over the past year, in particular Emily, Sophia and Taylor here on the Tour Down Under in the last couple of weeks. What has it meant to you to play with some of these rising stars here over the last little while?
It is a complete joy to get to see these young players as they're climbing up the same hill that I'm slowly walking down, and just to see their excitement and their growth and their potential. It's, I don't know, almost a maternal feeling for me watching where they're going.
Well, I mean, as your legacy has taken such amazing shape, we see the start of some new legacies here in our Rising Stars, so I can see why you might feel sort of special to somewhat pass the torch onto our wonderful Rising Stars. Hole number 9 is a par 3.
291 feet, slightly uphill. The women play from the shorter tee. This is reachable. There is out of bounds on the left-hand side that does come into play quite easily because it's hard to tell how the wind is affecting the disc as you get close to this basket.
And that one's a little too high here on hole number 9, and she does find the OB too on that left-hand side.
And she's quite a ways forward, so she's going to have a fairly awkward angle getting to the basket.
Looks like it's unfortunately following suit. There's barely some wind sweeping the disc from right to left. This green's an interesting one because the basket's just tucked in to that wooded zone, which means that if you're short of the basket and a matter of 15 feet left or right from that opening, you really don't have much of a putt.
A little bit better if you're on the right-hand side because there's not low limbs like there are on the left-hand side.
So Sophia's seen 3 discs sail into the left-hand OB here, and that looks like it might be a slight over correction, but it certainly won't find OB there on the right-hand side. About as good as Sophia could have done really from there to be up in a position now to effectively tap in for her par. And as we watch our other competitors pitch up from that left-hand side, OB. So we had 135 competitors out at the Oratia Orchard here at the New Zealand Disc Golf Open across a whole range of divisions. Professionals, we had some Masters players this weekend, a fantastic cohort of amateurs from our advanced, intermediate and novices, and some wonderful junior players rounding in our tournament action. So lots of activity in and about West Auckland on what was Auckland Anniversary Weekend.
Can you explain to our American audience what the Auckland Anniversary Weekend is?
It's effectively a regional version of, say, Memorial Day or 4th of July. It's a celebration of Auckland and all of its glory and wonders and natural beauty, and we get a holiday on that day, which is super cool. So we come to the end of our round 1 front 9 here at the Orchard, and atop the leaderboard is a name that we have not seen on coverage before, in Elke Alice Robin from Estonia. Colin Handley and Taylor Choceck not far behind on 1 over par, and Emily Weatherman and Sophia Donnecke, they're at 3 over and 4 over respectively. It's very early on in the picture, Julian, and we're only really just beginning the fun here at the Orchard. Plenty more disc golf to be had here over the New Zealand Disc Golf Open. We will see you for round 1 back 9 coverage in just a moment.